Chioma Okafor had always wondered what her life might have been if she had made different choices. Late at night, when the hum of Enugu traffic faded into the background and her small flat in Abakpa grew quiet, she often found herself staring at the cracked ceiling, asking herself the same question over and over again. What if? What if she had accepted that scholarship to study marketing in the UK instead of turning it down because of her mother's illness? What if she had stayed with Emeka instead of pushing him away before NSC? What if she had been braver, just once? But she never imagined she'd get the chance to find out. Not until the night everything changed. It was a gloomy, restless evening in Enugu. Rain poured from the sky in thick sheets, drumming relentlessly against the windshield of Chioma's old Toyota Corolla. The wipers squeaked back and forth, barely keeping up. The streets were slick and shiny, reflecting the harsh, flickering glow of streetlights and the red glare of brake lights stretching endlessly before her. Her phone vibrated on the passenger seat, a WhatsApp message from her best friend, Fiancé. She glanced at it briefly, just long enough to see. "Are you still working this late again? You need to rest, Chioma." She sighed. Rest. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, there's no such thing. Her mind was heavier than the storm clouds overhead. If I had accepted that scholarship years ago, I wouldn't be stuck in this boring job at a struggling marketing firm. Maybe I'd be living in London now. Or Abuja. Anywhere but here. Her thoughts swirled like the water rushing through the gutters. She almost missed the sound. The low, growing roar of something barreling toward her from the side. When she looked up, it was too late. Headlights. A massive lorry skidding through the intersection, out of control. Horn blaring like a final warning. Her breath caught in her throat. Crash. The sound was deafening. Glass exploded like shrapnel. Metal twisted and groaned. The world flipped, spun, and then nothing. She wasn't sure how long she had been unconscious. Felt like floating. Like being underwater without knowing which way was up. When Chioma finally opened her eyes, she expected to see paramedics. The wreckage of her car. The sterile walls of UN. Instead, she was staring at a white ceiling. A perfect, seamless white that almost hurt to look at. The air smelled strange, like rain mixed with something cold and metallic. Her body felt weightless, like she wasn't really lying on anything at all. Slowly she sat up. The room was empty, except for a single wooden chair in the middle. No windows. No doors. A chill ran down her spine. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice thin and shaky. Then, without warning, a voice echoed around her. Calm, deep, and unfamiliar. "You have been given a choice, Chioma." She jumped, her eyes darting around the empty room. "Who's there?" she asked, but there was no one. The voice continued, soft but clear, as if it came from everywhere at once. "You always wondered what life would be like if you had chosen a different path." Her heart raced. "What do you mean?" "You can now find out." The voice grew distant, like it was fading. "But remember, not all choices lead to happiness." Before she could say another word, the room began to shift. The walls bent inward like paper folding in a storm. The chair dissolved. The ground beneath her feet crumbled away. Chioma felt herself falling, spiraling through darkness, her screams swallowed by the void. When she opened her eyes again, it was to soft, filtered sunlight pouring through tall glass windows. The air smelled like fresh linen and something faintly floral. She blinked, trying to make sense of her surroundings. This was not her small, cramped flat in Abakpa. The bed she lay on was massive, draped in satin sheets and pillows that felt impossibly soft. Across the room, expensive furniture gleamed in the light. Imported wood, marble-top tables, a vanity she could never afford in her real life. Panic rose in her chest like a tidal wave. Where am I? She sat up quickly and saw her reflection in a mirror near the bed. Her hair was styled in a way she never wore it, and on her left hand sparkled a diamond ring. Her pulse thundered in her ears. A door opened, and footsteps padded softly across the marble floor. Then she heard a voice. "Good morning, darling." She froze. The man who entered the room looked familiar. Tall, handsome, wearing a tailored robe as if he belonged in this expensive world. When he smiled at her, her stomach dropped. It was Emeka Obi, her university boyfriend. The one she had walked away from years ago, telling herself she wasn't ready to settle down. The one she hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. And now he was looking at her like he had woken up next to her every morning for years. Like she was his wife. "Chioma, are you okay?" he asked, stepping closer, concern creasing his brow. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her heart was hammering in her chest. Because this wasn't her life. And somehow she knew. This was the life she could have lived. Chioma's breath caught in her throat. Emeka Obi. She couldn't believe it. There he was, standing right in front of her like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't broken up years ago. Like he hadn't become just a memory she sometimes thought about on lonely nights. She had once loved him deeply. They had talked about marriage, kids, building a future together. But life got in the way. She had walked away from him because she wanted to focus on her career. She wanted to become someone important, and she thought love would slow her down. And now, somehow, he was here, smiling at her like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. "Good morning, darling," Emeka said again, walking closer. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Chioma swallowed hard. She tried to smile, but her mind was spinning. What is happening? How did I get here? She had to act fast. Whoever she was in this new life, she had to pretend until she figured things out. I just had a strange dream," she said quickly. Emeka chuckled, shaking his head. "You and your funny dreams. Maybe you've been watching too many Nollywood movies again." He leaned down and kissed her forehead. The warmth of his lips felt real. Too real. Chioma's heart raced. This can't be a dream. Feels too real. Emeka straightened up. "Let me go and make tea. Big day today, remember." She nodded slowly, even though she had no idea what he was talking about. "Yes, big day." He raised an eyebrow. "Don't tell me you forgot." "Of course not," she said quickly, forcing a smile. "Good," Emeka replied. "Your company is opening a second office in Owerri today." Chioma froze. My company. What was he talking about? Before she could ask more questions, Emeka disappeared into the bathroom. Chioma jumped out of bed the moment he left. She needed answers. She looked around the room. It was big, beautiful, and nothing like her small flat in Abakpa. The bed was covered with soft satin sheets. The curtains were thick and expensive. There was a dressing table filled with fancy perfumes and makeup she couldn't even afford in her old life. Whose life is this? Chioma ran to the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, but something was different. Her hair was neatly styled in a sleek twist. Her skin looked smoother. She was wearing a silk nightdress, not her usual wrapper and old t-shirt. She touched her face, her arms, her body. It was still her, but different. She picked up the phone on the nightstand. It was the latest iPhone. She pressed the power button. The screen lit up. Her heart nearly stopped. The lock screen photo showed her and Emeka smiling on a beach in Lagos, holding hands. She looked happy, happier than she could remember. Under the picture, her name appeared. Chioma Okafor. Her stomach flipped. I'm married to Emeka. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the phone. Messages from staff, friends, even an assistant. Photos of her at business events. Videos of her and Emeka dancing at parties. This is not my life, she thought. A soft knock at the door made her jump. Mummy! Chioma froze. The door opened slowly. A little girl about 5 years old peeked into the room. She had Chioma's bright eyes and Emeka's nose. Her hair was in tiny twists, and she wore a pink cartoon pajama. Mummy, are you okay? Chioma's throat tightened. She tried to smile. I'm fine, my dear. The girl grinned wide, her small teeth showing. Daddy is making yam and eggs, she said happily. He said today is a big day. Before Chioma could say anything, the little girl skipped away. Chioma sat back down on the edge of the bed. Her hands were cold. This was more than just a different life. This was a whole new world. She wasn't just married to Emeka. She was a wife, a mother, a successful businesswoman. And she had no memory of how she got here. Her heart pounded in her chest as the truth sank in. This isn't my life. But now, I have to live it. Chioma spent the entire day pretending to smile, pretending to know what was going on, pretending to be the powerful woman everyone thought she was. From the moment she stepped out of the house, people were looking at her like she was somebody important. Drivers opened doors for her. Assistants handed her files and documents. Strangers greeted her with respect. Good morning, Mrs. Obi. Madam Chioma, congratulations on the new branch. You're such an inspiration, Ma. Everyone spoke to her like she was a queen. She soon found out that she owned a fashion company, Obi and Okoye Apparel, and it wasn't small at all. It was one of the most popular brands in Enugu, with stores in Lagos, Abuja, and now Owerri. People talked about her designs like they were magic. They called her the woman who changed Nigerian fashion. Emeka stood beside her the whole time, smiling proudly like a husband who had won the lottery. Their daughter Zara wore a cute pink dress with tiny braids in her hair, clapping happily at the grand opening event. Everything looked perfect, but to Chioma it all felt fake. Like she was watching a movie where she was the lead actress, but she didn't know the script. People asked her questions about sales targets and new collections. She nodded and smiled, giving vague answers. Her assistant whispered reminders in her ear, thinking her boss was just tired today. Chioma laughed at the right times. She smiled for the cameras. She stood next to Emeka and held his hand when reporters snapped pictures. But inside, her heart was shaking. Who is this version of me? How did I become her? And why don't I remember anything? By evening, the celebrations ended. Zara fell asleep on the ride home, her little head resting on Chioma's lap. Emeka drove quietly, one hand on the wheel, the other occasionally reaching over to squeeze Chioma's hand. When they got home, Emeka carried Zara to her room. Chioma went straight to the balcony outside their bedroom. The cool night breeze kissed her face. Below, the city lights of Enugu twinkled like tiny stars. The streets were calm now. No noise, no camera flashes, no questions. For the first time all day she could breathe. She leaned against the railing, staring out into the night. Why me? Why am I here? She felt like an intruder in her own life. Then, just like before, she heard it. Voice. Soft, deep, familiar. Is this what you wanted, Chioma? She turned quickly, her heart racing. Who's there? She called out. But there was no one. The balcony was empty. The room behind her was quiet. She waited, holding her breath. Then she heard it again, like a whisper carried by the wind. You can't stay here forever. The words echoed in her ears. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Her hands gripped the railing tightly. Because deep down, even though she didn't want to admit it, she knew the voice was right. This life wasn't hers. It looked beautiful on the outside. Fancy cars, a loving husband, a sweet daughter, a successful company. But it wasn't real. She didn't build this life. She didn't earn it. And something told her. Time was running out. The cracks were already showing. And soon everything might come crashing down. Early in the morning, Chioma picked up her phone, went to her contacts and typed Laura. Her number appeared. Chioma messaged her. Laura, please meet me at the coffee spot. It's urgent. Chioma sat across from Laura in a quiet cafe at Independence Layout. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries filled the air, but Chioma couldn't even taste the tea in front of her. Her hands were shaking slightly as she reached out and grabbed Laura's hands. She needed someone to believe her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You really believe me? Laura looked at her closely. She didn't answer right away. Then slowly she nodded. Chioma, I don't know what's happening, but yes, I believe you. Something is wrong. I've been noticing it. You don't act like yourself anymore. It's like you are you, but at the same time you're not. Tears almost filled Chioma's eyes. She felt seen. She felt less crazy. Laura, I think I woke up in a life that's not mine. Laura's eyes grew wide. She leaned in closer, her face serious now. Not your life. Then whose life is it? Chioma shook her head. I don't know. But it feels like someone pushed me here. Like I was forced to live this life I don't remember. Laura looked around the cafe quickly, making sure no one was listening. Then she leaned closer to Chioma and whispered, You think someone did this to you? Chioma nodded slowly. I keep hearing a voice. It's like it's following me everywhere. Laura's eyebrows pulled together. What does the voice say? Chioma swallowed hard. It says, I can't stay here forever. Laura blinked, sitting back in her chair like the words shocked her. She was quiet for a moment, then gave Chioma a small, worried smile. Okay, she said. If this is real, if something strange is really happening, then we need to be careful. Think about it, Chioma. If you're right, if this life doesn't belong to you, then maybe something or someone is trying to stop you from finding out the truth. Chioma's throat felt tight. Her heart was racing. Everything around her looked normal. The cafe, the cars passing outside, people laughing at the next table. But she knew the truth. Nothing was normal. Later that evening, Chioma went back home. She smiled at Zara, helped her with her homework, and laughed at Emeka's jokes like everything was fine. But inside she was scared. Her chest felt heavy like something bad was coming. That night, after everyone was asleep, she sat quietly in the bedroom. The house was quiet. She could hear Zara's soft breathing from her room. Emeka's steady snoring beside her. Chioma couldn't sleep. Something kept pulling at her mind. She turned to the small table next to the bed. There was a wedding picture there. A beautiful photo she had seen every day since she woke up in this new life. But tonight she looked closer. In the photo, she and Emeka were smiling. She was in a white wedding gown. He was in a black suit, holding her waist. It looked like a perfect moment, but something felt off. Chioma leaned in, squinting. Emeka's smile was big, but he wasn't looking at her. His eyes were looking past her, like he was staring at something or someone standing behind her. Chioma's stomach tightened. She looked behind them in the picture. First she thought it was nothing, just a blur. But when she looked again, she saw it clearly. Shadow. Blurry shape. It almost looked like a person standing behind them. Her hand shook as she touched the frame. Who was that? Why was there someone in their wedding picture? Why hadn't she noticed it before? Suddenly, she heard the door open. "Mama Zara," Emeka's voice said softly. "Are you okay?" Chioma jumped. She quickly pulled her hand away from the picture. "Yes, I'm just tired," she said, forcing a smile. Emeka walked over and glanced at the photo too. "You still love that picture, eh?" he said with a small laugh. Chioma nodded quickly, her heart beating fast. "Yes, it's beautiful." Emeka kissed her cheek and walked out of the room. As soon as he left, Chioma looked back at the photo. Her eyes locked on the shadow. It felt like the shadow was looking right back at her. And in that moment, Chioma knew something for sure. This life had secrets, and someone or something was watching her. Chioma sat quietly at the dinner table, trying to smile as Zara laughed and told a funny story about school. Emeka was serving rice and stew, humming a song under his breath. The house felt warm, peaceful, normal. But in Chioma's head, everything felt wrong. Her mind wasn't on the food. Her mind wasn't on Zara. Her mind wasn't even on Emeka. She was thinking about the shadow in the wedding photo. Who was it? Why was it there? What did it mean? She barely touched her food. Every time she looked at Emeka, her stomach twisted. Does he know? Is he hiding something? Is he even real? When Zara finished eating, Chioma kissed her forehead and watched her skip off to bed. Emeka stood up to clear the plates. Chioma quickly grabbed her phone and texted Laura. "Chioma, I found something. I need to see you. Urgent." Laura. "Meet me at the cafe in 20 minutes. Chioma's heart was beating fast. She stood up, thinking quickly about what to say. "I want to check something at the shop," she told Emeka, trying to sound casual. Emeka gave her a strange look. "This night? It's already late." Chioma forced a smile. "It won't take long. I just forgot something important." He paused, then nodded slowly. "Okay. Be careful." Chioma grabbed her keys and left before he could ask more questions. At the cafe, Laura was already waiting at their usual corner table. She looked worried. Chioma sat down quickly and pulled out the wedding photo from her bag. "Look," she said, sliding the photo across the table and pointing at the blurry shadow behind her and Emeka. Laura stared at it, her eyes wide. She leaned in closer, frowning. "Chioma, this is not normal." Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I think someone was there," Chioma said quietly. "Watching us. Watching me." Laura shook her head slowly. "This proves it. You were right. This life you woke up in, it's not real." Chioma felt her throat tighten. The weight of everything was crashing down on her. She took a deep breath and looked around the cafe, making sure no one was listening. Then she said the words that had been sitting heavy in her chest. "And I think Emeka knows something." Laura's eyes shot up. "You think he's part of this?" Chioma nodded. "He's too perfect, too careful. It's like he's trying to make me believe everything is fine. But it's not." Laura swallowed hard. What if Emeka is not real? Those words hit Chioma like ice water. She whispered back, "I don't even know who or what he is anymore." Cafe felt colder suddenly. Chioma's hands were shaking, so she hid them under the table. Laura picked up the photo again, her eyes scanning every corner. "Maybe the truth started from the beginning," she said quietly. Chioma frowned. "The beginning?" "Yes, from your wedding," Laura replied. "Think about it. What if your wedding wasn't real? What if that's when everything started?" Chioma's heart dropped. "You mean, the wedding itself was fake?" Laura nodded. "If we can find out what really happened that day, maybe we can find the truth. Maybe the answers are there." Chioma felt her whole body go cold. What if everything she believed, the wedding, her marriage, Zara, her success, was all a lie? What if none of it ever really happened? She stared at the photo one more time. The happy smiles, the beautiful dress, the loving husband, and behind them, that shadow, watching, waiting. Chioma knew one thing for sure. The cracks in her life were growing wider, and soon everything might fall apart. "I need proof," Chioma said firmly. "Real proof. Not just this picture. Something I can't explain away." Laura nodded. "Okay, let's think. Almost every couple these days has a wedding website. Let's check yours." She quickly pulled out her phone and searched. emekandchiomaforever.com. The website popped up. The home page was full of smiling pictures of Chioma and Emeka. There were photos of them holding hands, dancing, cutting cake. At the top, in big fancy letters, it said, "The best day of our lives." At first glance, everything looked perfect. But Chioma knew better now. "Click on the wedding venue," Chioma said quickly. Laura tapped the link that said venue. A white screen appeared. Error 404. Page not found. Laura tried another link, guest list. Again. Error 404. She clicked on wedding date. Error 404. Chioma's stomach twisted. Her heart was beating fast now. "Try the wedding video," she said. Laura nodded and tapped a button that said wedding highlights. Music started playing softly. The video showed Chioma walking down the aisle in a beautiful white dress. Emeka was waiting at the altar, smiling like the happiest man alive. Everything looked beautiful, like a fairy tale. But something didn't feel right. Chioma leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "Look at the guests," she whispered. Laura frowned. She paused the video and zoomed in. The people sitting at the wedding, family, friends, even strangers, were all smiling and clapping. But none of them were moving. No one blinked. No one turned their heads. No one shifted in their seats. They looked like statues, frozen, stuck in one perfect moment. Laura's hand shook as she replayed the video. The same thing happened again. The same smiles. The same clapping. No movement. "This is not real," Laura said quietly. "This is not a real wedding video. It's a loop. A fake." She paused the video and turned to Chioma. "Someone created this to make it look real. But it's not." Chioma felt like the air had left her chest. Her hands were cold. Her eyes filled with tears. "My wedding never happened," she whispered. She searched her mind, trying to remember the day. Sounds, the food, the music. But there was nothing. No memories. Just perfect pictures and smooth videos, like a dream someone else had written for her. Laura reached out and touched Chioma's hand. "Chioma, this life. Your life with Emeka, it was built, created, not lived." Chioma shook her head, tears falling down her cheeks. "If my wedding was fake, then what about everything else? What about Zara?" She thought of her daughter, the little girl who called her mummy, who laughed and ran into her arms every day. Could even Zara not be real? The thought broke her heart. Chioma wiped her tears and looked at Laura. Her voice was shaking but strong. "We need to find out who built this life. And why." Because now, she wasn't just fighting for the truth. She was fighting for herself. And for the one person she wasn't ready to lose, Zara. The house looked peaceful, warm lights glowing from the windows. If a stranger passed by, they would think everything was perfect inside. But Chioma knew the truth now, and it scared her. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. "Act normal," she told herself. "Don't let him know." When she opened the door, Emeka was waiting in the living room, like he had been expecting her. "You're back," he said softly. He stood up from the couch and walked towards her. "You stayed long at the shop." Chioma forced a small smile. "I was with Laura." Emeka's eyes narrowed a little. "Laura again." He said it gently, but Chioma heard something else in his voice. Something sharp, like suspicion. "She needed help with something," Chioma replied quickly. Emeka's eyes moved to her hands. She realized she was holding her bag too tightly, like she was holding onto a secret. She quickly dropped it on the table and tried to laugh. "I'm just tired," she added, hoping he would believe her. Emeka stepped closer and touched her cheek gently. His touch used to make her feel safe. But now it felt strange. "Cold. Me. You've been acting different, Chioma," he said quietly. Her heart jumped. Does he know? Did he find out what I've been digging? "How do you mean?" she asked, trying to sound normal. Emeka's eyes searched hers. "You pause a lot these days. You forget things. You act like you're not really here." Chioma swallowed hard and looked away. "I'm just stressed," she lied. "Work is plenty." He nodded slowly, like he wanted to believe her. "Okay. But remember, I'm here for you. Always." He leaned in and kissed her forehead. His lips were warm, but they didn't feel real anymore. Felt like an actor playing a role in a movie. Chioma smiled back and said, "I'm going to check on Zara." She climbed the stairs quickly, her heart pounding in her chest. When she entered Zara's room, the little girl was fast asleep, hugging her teddy bear tightly. Her small chest rose and fell as she breathed softly. Chioma sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at her daughter. Zara looked so peaceful, so innocent, surreal. But now, Chioma's mind was full of questions. Is she even real? Or is she part of the lie too? A piece of the dream someone made for me. Tears filled Chioma's eyes as she brushed Zara's hair gently. "No matter what, I will protect you," she whispered. She leaned down and kissed her daughter's forehead. As she stood up to leave, she glanced at the teddy bear in Zara's arms. Something caught her eye. There was a small tag sewn at the back of the teddy bear. Chioma leaned closer and saw something written in small letters. Property of Project Dream Life. Her blood turned cold. Project Dream Life. What was that? What did it mean? Chioma stepped back, her hands shaking. Now she was sure. Someone was watching her. Someone was controlling everything. And time was running out. Chioma didn't sleep that night. She lay on the bed, her back turned to Emeka, staring at the dark wall. Her mind was busy, running in circles. Can't stay here. This house is not safe. This life is not real. Have to leave. Have to protect Zara. But every time she thought of leaving, one question stopped her. Where will I go? The next morning, Chioma wore a fake smile like makeup. She cooked breakfast. She laughed when Emeka told his usual silly jokes. She helped Zara dress up for school, brushing her hair neatly. But inside she was making a plan. When Emeka left for a phone call, she grabbed her phone and quickly texted Laura. Chioma, I want to leave. Zara. Laura, okay. Come to me. But don't let Emeka see you go. Chioma's heart beat fast. She went upstairs quietly and packed a small bag for Zara. Just clothes, snacks, and her favorite teddy bear. Mummy, where are we going? Zara asked sweetly. Chioma smiled and knelt down. Just a small trip, my baby. Somewhere fun. You'll like it. She zipped the bag and took Zara's hand. They walked downstairs carefully, like thieves in their own house. When they reached the front door, Emeka was standing there. Chioma's heart nearly stopped. He smiled softly. Going somewhere. She forced a smile back. Yes, I want to take Zara to see Laura. Emeka raised an eyebrow. You didn't mention it before. It was last minute, Chioma replied, her voice shaking a little. Emeka's eyes moved from her face to the small bag in her hand, then back to her face. It felt like he was reading her thoughts. Let me come with you, he said kindly. Chioma's heart started racing. No need. Just a small girl's outing. We'll be back soon. He stared at her for a few seconds. Then he smiled again. All right. Enjoy. Chioma wanted to run, but she walked slowly, holding Zara's small hand tightly. She didn't want Emeka to see how scared she was. They got outside. Chioma quickly opened the car door and helped Zara into her seat. She jumped into the driver's seat and turned the key. Blick. Nothing. He tried again. Blick. Nothing. The car refused to start. Her heart dropped. He did something. He knew. Her hands were shaking as she grabbed her phone and texted Laura. Chioma, car won't start. He did something. Help me. Laura, walk. Normal. I'm coming to meet you. Chioma took a deep breath and smiled at Zara. Change of plans, baby, she said. We're walking. Zara clapped happily. Yay. I like walking, Mummy. Chioma stepped out of the car, holding Zara's hand tightly. She walked slowly down the street, trying to act normal. She didn't look back. Because she knew. If she looked back, she would see Emeka standing by the window, watching her. And she wasn't sure if he would let her go. Chioma's heart raced as they walked. Zara was skipping along beside her, laughing, making the walk feel like a fun game. But Chioma's mind was elsewhere. Every step felt like she was running for her life. She kept glancing around, afraid that any second, Emeka might show up and stop them. It felt like hours had passed, but finally, a car pulled up beside them. Chioma didn't hesitate. The door flung open. Enter! Laura called out from the driver's seat. Chioma didn't wait. She quickly helped Zara into the back seat and jumped in after her. The car sped off into the night. As the city lights blurred past the windows, Chioma looked out at the streets, her heart still pounding. They had escaped. For now. The drive was long, but eventually, Laura pulled into a small guest house on the edge of town. It looked quiet and safe. Just what they needed. They got out of the car, and Laura quickly booked a room. Inside, Chioma laid Zara down on the bed. The little girl was exhausted and fell asleep almost immediately. Her teddy bear clutched tightly in her arms. Chioma sat on the other bed, trying to calm her racing thoughts. But she couldn't. Laura was silent for a moment, staring at Chioma. Then she spoke, her voice low and serious. Chioma, I need to ask you something. Chioma turned to her. What is it? Laura hesitated. Do you think Emeka is real? Chioma felt a chill run through her. She didn't answer at first. She thought about Emeka's strange smiles, how perfect and flawless he always seemed. She thought about the fake wedding, the blurry guests in the photo. Her stomach tightened. I don't know, she whispered. But I don't think he's human. Laura nodded slowly, taking in Chioma's words. But then she asked another question that made Chioma's blood run cold. And what about Zara? Chioma froze. Her heart stopped for a second. What are you saying? She asked, her voice shaking. Laura's eyes were full of concern. Chioma, if Emeka was created for you, if he's not real, then maybe Zara was too. Chioma shot to her feet. No, don't say that. Zara is real. She's my daughter. Laura didn't speak again. She just watched Chioma, who was now pacing the room, trying to make sense of it all. She couldn't believe it. How could Laura even suggest something like that? Chioma turned to look at Zara, who was sleeping soundly on the bed. Her face was peaceful, innocent, and she looked so real. She sounded real when she laughed. She felt real when Chioma held her hand. Zara was everything to Chioma. Chioma went to the bed and sat next to Zara. She gently touched the little girl's hair. She's my daughter, Chioma whispered to herself. She's my daughter. But deep inside her, doubt had begun to grow. And it hurt so much. Chioma couldn't stop thinking. What if Laura was right? What if Zara wasn't real? The pain in her chest was unbearable. Her whole world was crumbling piece by piece. She sat there for a long time, staring at her daughter, trying to push away the thoughts that wouldn't leave her mind. But they kept coming. What if everything she knew was a lie? What if Zara was a part of that lie? As Chioma sat in the quiet room, surrounded by nothing but the sound of Zara's soft breathing, she realized something. There was no way back now. There was no turning around, no undoing what had been done. Her life had been taken from her. And now she had to find a way to take it back. Chioma stepped outside the guest house room, needing to clear her mind. The cool night air didn't help calm her, but she needed space to breathe. Everything had changed in just one night. Emeka is dead. Zara might not be real. My whole life is a lie. The weight of it all pressed down on her chest. How had she not seen it before? How had she lived in a world that wasn't real? Laura followed her outside. She put a hand on Chioma's shoulder. I know it's hard, Chioma, but we have to keep going. We need answers. We need to find out who did this to you. Chioma nodded slowly, wiping away the tears that she hadn't even realized had fallen. You're right. We have to find out who did this. I need to know the truth. They went back inside, and Laura quickly began typing on her phone. Her face turned serious as she scrolled through the pages. Chioma paced, her mind racing with all the new information. "Wait," Laura said suddenly, her voice low. "Look at this." She turned the phone toward Chioma. On the screen was a company called Neuromind Technologies, located in Lagos. They specialized in memory rebuilding. The website claimed they could create new lives for people who had lost everything. Laura tapped on a link, and the page loaded. Chioma's heart stopped. There on the screen was a picture of her face. Second chance test subject 004. Chioma Okafor. Her breath caught in her throat. "They put me in a test," Chioma whispered, her voice shaky. Laura nodded. "After your crash, they put you in something called the Second Chance Initiative. They gave you a brand new life. A new husband, a daughter, a business. All of it." Chioma stared at the screen. She couldn't breathe. "But why? Why would they do this to me?" Laura looked up, her eyes full of sympathy. "It looks like they were trying to help you heal, to make you feel better after everything you lost. But they didn't tell you the truth. They built this life for you. A life that was never really yours." Chioma felt like the ground had shifted under her. All this time she thought her life was real. She thought her memories were real. But it was all a lie, a carefully constructed illusion. Before Chioma could say anything else, there was a knock at the door. It was slow. Chioma's heart skipped a beat. Laura quickly moved toward the window and peeked out. She froze. "It's him," she whispered, her voice tense. "It's Emeka." Chioma felt her blood run cold. Her mind couldn't wrap around what was happening. Emeka couldn't be here. He was supposed to be dead. "Chioma." They heard his voice from the other side of the door, soft and familiar, like nothing had changed. "Let's go home." Zara stirred in her sleep, confused. "Daddy," she mumbled, her little voice full of innocence. Chioma's hands shook as she picked her up. Her mind was spinning. What was going on? How could Emeka be here? Laura quickly moved to Chioma's side. She pulled something from her bag. A small taser. "We can run or we can fight," she said, her voice steady. "What do you want to do?" Chioma looked at Zara, her daughter's innocent face against her chest. Then she looked at the door. The man outside wasn't Emeka. Not the Emeka she had loved. Not the Emeka she thought she knew. This was someone else. "No," Chioma said, her voice firm. "We end this. Right now." She wasn't going to run anymore. She wasn't going to hide. The truth was right in front of her, and she had to face it. She had to end the lies. Laura nodded, her face hard with determination. "Let's do this." The knock came again. Emeka's voice echoed through the door. "Chioma, I said let's go home. It's time to stop all of this." Chioma closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. She was scared, but she had to do this. She had to find out who this man really was and why he had been pretending to be her husband. She opened the door, her heart racing, but her mind was clear. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for. The moment she would face the truth, no matter how hard it was. Emeka stood outside the guest house, calm and patient. He waited. "Chioma, you don't have to be afraid," he said softly, his voice almost gentle. Inside, Chioma held Zara tightly, feeling her little heart beat in her arms. Laura stood beside her, ready. Both of them knew what needed to happen, but it didn't make it any easier. He's not real, Chioma whispered, her voice shaking. She still couldn't fully understand everything, but she knew enough now. There was another knock at the door. It was slow, firm. Emeka's voice followed. Chioma, you're supposed to be with me. This life was made for you, he said. His words were smooth, almost convincing. But Chioma wasn't fooled anymore. Tears filled Chioma's eyes as she looked at Zara. I didn't choose this life, she whispered, the pain in her chest growing heavier. Laura stepped forward. We don't have to listen to him. We can leave now. But Chioma stopped her. Wait, she said, her voice low but firm. I need to talk to him. I need to hear him say it. She walked slowly to the door and opened it just a little, enough to see Emeka standing there, smiling calmly. Come back with me, he said, his voice soft and coaxing. Zara misses her father. I miss you. Chioma stepped outside, standing face to face with the man who had been pretending to be her husband. She's not real, is she? She asked, her voice full of pain. Emeka didn't answer at first. He just looked at her, his smile never wavering. I remember the accident now, Chioma continued. You died. And I survived. Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. You were built for me, so I wouldn't be alone. Finally Emeka nodded slowly. Yes, he said softly. That's true. Chioma felt like her world was falling apart. And Zara? She asked, her voice shaking. Was she just created? Emeka sighed and looked at the ground before meeting her eyes. She was created from your memories, from your dreams, from the love you still had in your heart. Chioma felt a tear slip down her cheek, but she wiped it away quickly. But she feels real, she whispered. She feels like my daughter. She is real, Emeka said, his voice soft but distant. She was made from your love. That's what makes her real to you. Chioma turned her head and saw Zara standing at the door, looking up at her with innocent eyes. Mummy? The little girl asked, her voice quiet and unsure. Chioma looked back at Emeka, feeling the weight of the decision on her chest. She had to do this. She couldn't live a fake life anymore. I'm not staying, she said quietly. I don't want a fake life anymore. I want the truth. Emeka's face changed, a sadness filling his eyes. Then say goodbye. Chioma knelt down in front of Zara, hugging her tightly, feeling the warmth of her little body. Zara smiled up at her, so full of love. I love you, Mummy, she said softly. Chioma's heart broke. I love you too, she whispered, holding her close. Always. For one last moment, Chioma held her tightly, feeling every beat of Zara's tiny heart against her own. Then slowly Zara began to fade. Like smoke, she disappeared into the air, her form becoming lighter and lighter until there was nothing left. Chioma cried silently as she watched her daughter vanish. It was the hardest thing she had ever done. But deep down she knew it was the right choice. Laura stepped forward, pulling Chioma into a tight hug, offering comfort in the silence. Emeka stood in the doorway watching them. He didn't speak, just nodded once at Chioma. Goodbye, Chioma, he said quietly, his voice full of sadness. Then, just like Zara, Emeka faded away. His form disappeared, leaving nothing but the empty air around them. The world felt different, quiet, real. The illusion was gone. Everything that had been fake was finally over. Chioma stood still for a moment, taking a deep breath. She turned to Laura, her eyes red from crying. "I want to live my real life now," she said, her voice steady. Laura smiled gently at her. "Then let's start again. Together." They walked out into the early morning light, the first rays of the sun casting a soft glow on the horizon. It was a new day, real day, a day where Chioma could start over, where she could find herself again without the lies. And as they walked into the sunrise, Chioma felt a small, quiet hope rising in her chest. New life, real life,